Good morning, everyone. This is Coffee Time with the Sanctuary, and I'm so glad you could join us. Welcome. Enjoy a cup of coffee with us. Take 5 minutes as we meet together and discuss some rather important things. This is Mabyn. Mabyn is our supervisor and counsellor for a certain section of the counselling centre, and I've worked with Mabyn for some time now, and we've had a wonderful relationship, and a lot of people have come through our kind of counselling, and there was a very good reason why Mabyn and I started working together, and I'd love to share that with you today. So Mabyn, remember when I joined Sanctuary a while ago?
Yes, I do.
And we were at that stage counselling quite a few people, but it was interesting that all of them seemed to come to me with the same question. And it was, I'm doing all the things I need to do. I'm going to all the counsellors, more than one. Sometimes I'm going to a psychologist or a psychiatrist. And everything goes well for a while, and then I make progress, but the progress stops. And maybe a month or 2 or 6 months later, I'm finding I'm making no progress at all. In fact, my old nature, my old habits are coming back again. Do you remember that, Mabyn? And you gave me some good insight into that. What do you think is the reason why counselling doesn't always help people in the way they want to be helped?
Well, Hilary, the thing that I've learned over the years is that there is a place for counselling, and there is a place for psychologists, and there is a place for just psychiatrists even, and for medication. And there is a use, and that can be very useful and helpful to
I
people.
agree.
But there are certain things that are even more helpful, because naturally most people go to the counsellor and they pour out their heart to the counsellor, and the counsellor listens and hears and understands and will give them helps and aids to overcome the problem.
Right.
And for me, that is like picking off a rotten fruit off a tree.
Okay.
And the problem is that rotten fruit can grow back again, and that's why after a certain period of time they find they have gone back into the old way of thinking or doing things.
So just to clarify a moment, guys, it's like you've been building something in your life. Call it a tree, right? Right from when we're little, we start getting programmed, we start behaving in a certain way. So it's actually developed in us something that looks literally like a tree. It's not just, oh, I get angry just today and tomorrow I'll be fine. Over time, anger has developed in you, and that's what we mean when we say there's been a tree growing.
Yeah, you see, I look at it like this, that the fruit is on the tree, which can be either good or rotten. But for you to have good fruit, you have to have a good roots.
Okay.
And so often the roots are not good.
Yeah.
And it can be through our upbringing, it could through experiences that happen to us, it can be through pain and discomfort, and we don't realize that we've got deep wounds in our soul.
Exactly.
And we don't realize that what we do is when something happens to us, we push it aside because we don't know how to deal with it, and then we think it's dealt with. But sometime later something happens and we react or instead of responding, and we don't know why we reacted like that.
That's right.
But we're actually reacting out of a painful root or pain in our soul, a wound in our soul, something deep within us.
There you go.
And so what we need to do is not just pick the fruit off,
Right.
but we need to find where the root is and deal with the root issue.
Right.
And that, I have found over the years, brings better results than just taking the fruit off.
And that's what we found over and over and over again. In fact, one of the reasons we have coffee time is we so want to include you in that conversation. Have you ever had a time in your life when you just don't seem to be making progress? You're living today, but something from the past seems always to be hindering you. there could be a root down there deep inside you that just needs to be dealt with, because doing it superficially is super for a moment. But if you pluck a lemon off and you've got a lemon tree, there's going to be another lemon growing back. You can't expect to get an orange from a lemon tree. So this root approach has been really important to us. We've found it's changed people's lives. So Mabyn, what are some of the roots?
Well, the thing is, Hilary, it's not only the root we have to deal with. We find that, and this is the I don't really want to call it system or method or the way I approach the clients that have got problem, is I realize it's not just one issue. Because if there's a wounded soul, that has affected their way of thinking. That has contaminated the behaviour.
Right.
And therefore, they're doing things they don't really want to do, but they don't know why they're doing it. And so, if we can cut, because when there's a woundedness, we justify the things that we do, and meantime, that's not always the right way to do it. So we have to change our way of thinking, and that changes our behaviour.
So just to get to the justification, is this what we're talking about? Well, they made me angry. I had every right to be angry. And so I'm justified in being angry, rather than saying, I get angry an awful lot. Maybe there's something keeps stirring up in me that actually it's my fault. Is that what we mean by
justifying is one issue, but the root of anger is another issue. And it might not be only anger. Some people withdraw, some people feel terrible rejection and therefore they're oversensitive, and there are other people who they put up barriers and they put up walls and they keep themselves at arm's length from other people, and they don't really want to, but they don't know why they're doing it. And those are all protective things around a deep root within their soul. And they don't always recognize it, but when you come into ministering to them, which is more than counselling, it's going deeper than counselling, and finding the true issue. Right. For example, if a child is rejected in childhood, they've got a huge big wound in their soul. Now out of that comes a whole lot of things that we need to deal with. And that's why I'm saying it affects your way of thinking, it affects your belief system, and it affects your behavior.
And so it's got to be dealt with. You can't just, it's too superficial to say, I'll go into counselling, I'll get a good habit, give me 10 steps to get over a problem, and I'll be done. Listening to you, and what I've experienced too in my counselling, is that you need more than that. You've got to go down and deal with those issues in your life. And if you do, and if you take the time, it does seem to take a bit of time at the beginning, but in a short period of time you've exposed things that otherwise you suppress, and they come up and they hurt your future. It's not. It's literally letting your past affect your future if you don't deal with the roots. Do you think so, Mabyn?
Yes, it is. I agree with you. The thing is, we mustn't allow the past to control our future. We need to deal with the past so that we can move on into the future. But while we haven't dealt with the things from the past, they still hold us back in the future. But the thing is this, that so often we want to, but we don't know how to.
Right.
And so that's why when it comes into the counselling room, we then can discuss these things together and together pinpoint what the real issue is. So that in the future, we can start looking at the way you think, and the way we behave, and the reactions we have to other people. And so it's an integrated approach to dealing with all those areas of our lives.
Not just one issue.
Not just the issue, not just the root, because out of the root comes the way we think. So how do we deal with our way of thinking?
Right.
Because very often our thinking is based on a lie. And we need to see what the truth is. Like, for example, you might grow up in a home where you're told, you are so stupid. And you grow up believing you're stupid, but it's a lie. Because you actually are not stupid.
But it feels like a truth to you.
Yes. And so we need to dig into those areas and find what the truth is compared to the lie that is actually holding you back.
And let go of the lie.
Yes, and let go of the lie. And then the other thing is that lie controls the way we behave. Because instead of reaching the fullness of who we are, we start thinking we're stupid, and so we don't give our full potential, believing that we can reach that potential because it's based in a lie. Okay. So once we've dealt with the lie, then we can look at our behavior and where we can go from there.
So it must change everything.
Yeah, absolutely. And you see, the thing is, the lie can cause our whole soul to be oppressed.
Okay.
And then we need to look at what is oppressing your soul. Why are you so down? Why are you so heavy? Why are you so downhearted? Why are you frustrated? And all this comes out of a root.
And maybe when you talk about the soul, that could, does that influence your mind and your will and your emotions? It can sort of dampen your will, and
Absolutely.
It can make you feel down, but it's also in your thinking.
Yeah.
Maybe you're thinking negative thoughts, and you're saying it all comes from that lie, could be influencing you.
And the lie usually comes from the wound, you see, which is the deep root.
Okay.
And so our soul is, as you said, Hilary, our soul is the way we think, it's the way we behave, and it controls our will as well, because we can will to do this or not that.
Yeah.
And those things come out of what I would call a wound in our heart.
Yeah.
So if something can break our heart, it causes a deep wound within us. We don't know how to deal with it. So we just shove it aside. And then those things that cause the wound are what we live out of, the lies, the deception, and it controls our behavior. And we don't reach our full potential as the people we should do.
And what
Does
a
that help at all?
Yeah, and guys, that's exactly it. That lots of us, most of us, just about everybody, is not reaching that potential because of some bad feeling or some thought, or I can't make it, or I'm stupid, or something somebody said to us. And there's a hope, right?
It can also be an experience that we've had.
Yes.
It's not necessarily what people have done. It can be an experience that we have experienced.
Like a trauma? Or
Well, I mean, for example, let me give you a little example. Many years ago, there was a young girl who came, and she was full of fear.
right?
And her mother brought her because she was full of fear. And in the time of our meeting with her, we discovered that what happened many years ago, when she was about 5 years old,
Yeah.
her whole family had been held up and put in a garage, and she thought they'd gone out and left her at home because she was in her granny's room and she couldn't get out. Meantime, they were being held up.
Oh.
And she was being protected because she was kept in her granny's room and couldn't get out. And eventually, when it came out, she was riddled with fear. But when we realized that she hadn't been left at home alone, that the family had gone through the whole period of being held up, and she knew the true story and the truth came out, her fear was gone.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
You see, guys, that's what we're talking about. And that's a real life case. And,
Yeah.
and that's what we
Yeah.
face every day. See, the things that happen to us, they're deep within us. And once we expose them, very often, they just evaporate. They just leave us. But pushing them down all the time is not so helpful.
Yeah. And for example, this little girl, she wouldn't even go to sleep. She was 14, 15, 16 years old by this stage, I can't remember. And she wouldn't go to bed without the light on. And she was so fearful of the dark. And I bumped into her mother some time after that, and her mother said, "Oh, no, that's all thing of the past."
Fantastic.
So it's wonderful.
And there you are, a teenager just starting out on life, and that was just a concrete experience they had. It's not that we influence, that anything influenced them. They were almost a child. They'd just come into puberty, but think how that fear could have messed up their lives going forward. And now she's free. How wonderful.
Yeah. And most times it's a deep wound in the soul that needs to be healed. And we don't even realize it's there.
You see, we really meet a lot of people, including myself, who've had deep wounds in their soul. So, if you are feeling that you have an issue you'd like to deal with, If this has spoken to you at all this morning, please do feel free to contact us. Come along into Sanctuary, and we'd love to assist whenever and wherever we can. God bless you, and know there's always hope, and there's always a solution. And God's large, and when you put him in charge, it's amazing what can happen. Mabyn, thanks so much for sharing with us today. It's been lovely having you. I hope you've enjoyed coffee time.
Yes, it's been lovely, thank you. And I hope that our conversation has helped somebody out there.
Yes.
Because that's what it's all about, is being free from the past and moving with joy into the future.
So God bless everyone, and thanks, Mabyn. And see you soon. Take care now. Bye-bye.